Hello everybody. So I'm recording this video late on Friday evening. I will release it in the morning on Saturday. I want to talk about power access and using power access to assess Bitcoin miners and kind of trying to figure out which Bitcoin miners is cheap, not because of their exahash, not because of their mining capacity, but because of the power contracts, the access to power that they have secured before the AI boom. And I think that is going to be a key narrative for a lot of these miners. They have secured power contracts and power access long before this AI move, and now they could be very interesting for people that are not interested in Bitcoin, but that are interested in getting access to these power contracts, getting access to the grid. So really briefly, how I did my spreadsheet. I did market cap minus Bitcoin, and I'm using market cap here, not enterprise value, because the debt on Bitcoin miners is not real debt per se. It's convertible debt. For example, RIOT and Mara, they have convertible debt, so it's gonna be just converting to dilution. So I don't feel comfortable including that. I think market cap actually makes much more sense for Bitcoin miners, and I do want to remove the debt, not the debt, the Bitcoin the debt. I do want to remove the Bitcoin bag, because the Bitcoin bag is easily sellable in the open market. You can sell that Bitcoin bag. That Bitcoin bag is, I was going to say like cash, but no, it's better than cash because it's growing in value. So the key factor here in determining the cost of each megawatt hour, the key factor is going to be MCAP minus Bitcoin. And so you can see that, of course, MCAP minus Bitcoin rewards companies that hodl Bitcoin, like Mara, like RIOT, like CleanSpark. They are heavily rewarded. Even HUT, these are heavily rewarded for owning Bitcoin. And of course, companies like IREN or NBIS or CORZ are at a disadvantage here because they don't own Bitcoin. So it makes them more expensive, essentially. Also, another point is, so what I did is there's cost for developed access to each megawatt, and then cost for each megawatt at final potential. And I'm only using the contract secure, capacity secured, but they need to set up the transformers. So if you see those numbers, total power to be developed, for example, for IREN, that would be their not Childress, but their oversight in West Texas. I can't remember the name right now. But they have this huge 2 gigawatt site that they bought over there. Right, they have access to the power, but they need to develop it. And how long does it take to develop it? Well, it takes a while because you got to have these transformers. It's not like these transformers fit on normal trucks. You have to secure the transformers. You have to secure the buildings. It just takes a while. It moves at the pace of brick and mortar. That's the problem. So I make a distinction between total power to be developed, this is what they will have, and power available right now. This is what they have available right now. They got the transformers ready. The power is ready to use. And so you can see, for example, IREN has 650 megawatt of power ready to use. Mara, 1100 megawatt. And if you look at these two, for example, and this is the same for all of them, how much growth are they going to have? How much power are they going to have in 26 or 27 when the timeline is complete, when they've actually developed the sites at a brick and mortar pace? Well, you can calculate kind of a growth in power to be. And you can see IREN as the second biggest growth in power anticipated at 345%. Mara not as much, right? RIOT nice, HUT not as much. CleanSpark, I didn't find any plans to buy more power. At least that's what I maybe I got. This is all hand collected data. I couldn't really find much plans for CleanSpark to grow their power. I'm sure they have them, but they haven't communicated them. NBIS, I'm putting 1,000 there, but the CEO just threw that casually on a conference call. I did a search on the later conference call, and that's just a number the CEO casually threw out there. So I don't really know how serious that power access that they've secured is. I don't really know, because it was just mentioned in a sentence in a conference call. But nonetheless, I'm gonna put it in there because NBIS is not looking good at all in this spreadsheet. Clearly, NBIS is a company that is not valued based on its power access. NBIS is a company that is valued based on its venture capital projects like ClickHouse, the stake in ClickHouse, and NBIS is valued on the partnership with NVIDIA and the hyperscalers being secured for operating these GPUs via NBIS's service. A lot of the value of NBIS is in the software and the relationship of the CEO with big tech. That's where a lot of value lies. So it's gonna look very bad for NBIS. It doesn't look good for NBIS, because even if you assume they do 1,000 megawatts, so 1 gigawatt, assume a gigawatt soon within the next 18 months, you're still showing up a valuation of like 10 million per gigawatt. 10 million per gigawatt. That's significantly higher than the to be developed or the fully developed potential average, which I have at 2.68. The market on average is granting a value of 2.68 million per megawatt to be. 2.68 million per megawatt to be. And the market right now is granting a valuation of 18 million per megawatt that is already here. 18 million per megawatt that is already here, right? That is already has the transformers, the building, the permits, all of that good stuff. So here you can see a few patterns. You can see which stock is less valued than the average, right? And of course, Mara and Hut seems the least valued stocks. I would argue that CORZ Scientific, which was acquired, if I look at the total potential, 2.83, CORZ Scientific is kind of within the mean. You know, NBIS is very expensive. RIOT, IREN, they're cheap, but they're definitely not the cheapest. And CleanSpark is a little expensive as far as power access goes. But most of them are still cheaper than the average because of NBIS. And here's another thing. So what's the cost of power access like in the open market if you want to go out and buy? Well, journalists make a lot of really great headlines, but I wasted 30 minutes trying to find how much they actually pay, and they didn't do the digging. They didn't do the deep digging. I know some analysts do that. You feel free to go look at some of the Wall Street analysts that have done that. Kudos to them. But you know, there's a lot of demand for 1,000 megawatt power, for gigawatt power. Meta bought 1 gigawatt of renewable power, right? Elon Musk bought a power plant overseas and is shipping into Memphis because I guess natural gas is already there. It's easier to just burn natural gas. You know, today natural gas, you can move a lot of energy. Natural gas, they have these pipes, they're under pressure. The natural gas moves really, really quick within these pipes. So that's probably the reason why Musk, the electric king, why is he doing natural gas? Probably because that's the easiest way to get the power to the AI. And actually, one of the earlier examples that I found of like a clear indication of the price is when CleanSpark last year, they acquired a company because of their access to power, and they paid $155 million for 400 megawatt in Tennessee. So 400 megawatt divided by 155 million, that gives us 2.5 million per megawatt. So we're not too far-fetched in my 2.68 million per megawatt. A megawatt is expensive. And of course, AI to the rescue, right? I used AI to try to figure out how much does it cost. And these costs, of course, don't include an urgency premium. People could go wild. We could get in a moment where people get wild, companies get wild. They need the power now. The power today is worth millions more per megawatt than the power in a year or in 18 months. So that's also part of the race here. And AI doesn't take that into account. At least I didn't ask my AI to take it into account. But if you look at the main ways to get power, these numbers are not too far-fetched. For a grid connection, yeah, it can be multiple $100,000, like let's say $400,000 or something. I don't think it's 60. The AI is hallucinating here. But then, because a megawatt, you can power a very, very big neighborhood. You can power a small city in a megawatt. Anyways, the point is the grid connection is the cheapest way, but then you gotta pay for the electricity each year, and it's between 600,000 and $1 million. And you could calculate that if you use like 5 cents a kilowatt hour. You could recalculate it. Feel free to do that. Then you have the solar plant. The solar plant is $1 million, and then of course that doesn't include the battery equipment. You need to invest in batteries, and so these batteries cost. The Tesla Megapacks, they are what, $2 million roughly. So probably double that with the batteries. It's actually probably pretty darn expensive to have a power plant, because you need to have the batteries for the night. Wind turbine, the cost is through the roof, 1.5 million to do 1 megawatt of project, 50K of maintenance. But the wind turbines, you also probably need the batteries. And then you have natural gas. The cost up front, I would argue, is probably pretty similar to the cost of grid connection, and it depends on where you are. Of course, some of these companies are in the middle of nowhere. Connection is going to cost a fortune if you're in the middle of nowhere. But let's say it's 600, 700K for natural gas, and then between $500 and $1 million for fuel, and then you have your electric cost, which is correlated to the cost of gas, which could be a good thing right now, because I think the correlation between natural gas and oil is something like 70%. So oil is cheap, gas is cheap. So the point I'm trying to say is that even if I'm being conservative, and you do understand the trade-off, of course. The trade-off is you could generate your own power, and you could save more money in the long run by generating your own power, but your upfront cost is going to be higher. Or you could just connect to the grid or get a natural gas equipment. Natural gas equipment is cheaper, grid connection is cheaper, but then your ongoing cost is much, 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 much higher, right? The maintenance of a wind turbine or a solar plant is nothing compared to actually just buying the power. So it all depends. Do you want to spend a lot of money up front and save in the future? Or do you want to spend very little upfront and pay for the power in the future? Because we're in a race to AI, I think a lot of participants are just deciding to grid connect, to do natural gas, and they'll just pay the millions a year per megawatt to just secure the power, secure the fuel. But either way, it costs what? At the very least between $1 and $1.5 million for a megawatt of power. And I would argue it's probably, because I didn't include batteries and things like that, it's probably $1.5 million. And so you can go back to this spreadsheet and ask yourself, well, what's going on? So $1.5 million. So IREN right now, the potential I'm paying for 1.29. That's less than $1.5 million. Mara, what is going on with Mara? The market gives no premium to Mara's power access, whether it is the to-be developed 3 gigawatt, that's trading right now at a 0.29 million per megawatt. So Mara is a huge discount. The power is free at Mara compared to the cost of AI says. And even if you just look at the developed sites right now, Mara, you're at $790,000 for a megawatt. So you're like half off compared to the most optimistic AI scenario. Right? Same for HUT. HUT is very cheap too. 0.43 million per megawatt is what you pay, or 1 million per megawatt, which is still a good third cheaper than what the AI says. And then you have players that are a little more expensive. So we can come up with some sort of valuation just looking at that valuation and asking yourself, well, okay, if I want to buy Mara because I want to have access within 18 months, I want to have access to 3 gigawatt. And so I'm going to buy Mara, and I'm going to pay $860 million, right? How much would that cost if I were to just go and build it? Well, it's simple. It's $4.5 billion, right? 3,000 million plus 50%, that's 4.5, because I'm assuming it cost an average of 1.5 million. So, and of course, that's Mara would only be 860 million because a company interested in buying Mara would likely just sell the Bitcoin or do whatever with it, or you can do an innovative merger where a company just acquires the Bitcoin bag and then they come in and they acquire just the power supply and the power operations. And that doesn't include the miners and the cost of the miners, and certainly the miners that RIOT has, the miners that CleanSpark has, the miners that IREN has. Those miners are modern miners. They're worth a lot of money. Mara's miners are a little cheaper. Obviously, they have the old stuff. So hopefully this helps you understand why I think there is insane value in the power access that these miners have, and they're going to be ripe for the picking. I think there's going to be some M&A because that power access is not going to be unnoticed for long, especially as AI is really picking up steam. So this was not financial advice, not investment advice. This is entertainment and entertainment only. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.